say they gonna beat them? Say, who that? Who that? Who that say they gonna beat them? Say, who that? Who that? Who that say they gonna beat them? Say, who that?
All right, and of course, the final story, man, I got for you guys. Shout out to WWL Radio. They did an interview with Drew Brees, and Brees talked about the Saints' offensive line continuity is crucial as offense builds under Kellen Moore.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
All right, Drew. Look at the team right now. We're 1-5. I mean, when you're in that type of atmosphere, you got to be a pro one snap and clear, but it has to mess with, the spirits of the team and the individual player, depending on how you made up. But what's the most critical message right now you delivered to, the locker room to keep the team from fracturing and not pointing fingers and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, man. Look, it's been one possession, come down to the final drive in just about every one of these games, except for the Seattle game. So, I think that should be encouraging. And then it's just a matter of finding a way to win those games. And it usually comes down to one or two plays here and there. And I know, in each of these games, it's been kind of a different play. Maybe it was something offensively, maybe it was something defensively, maybe it was something special teams related. But the team is very close. And look, I know they have great leadership. I think especially on the defensive side of the ball, with Cam and DeMario. And then offensively, look, man, that offensive line and Alvin Kamara, all veteran guys that really have the opportunity to take control of that, kind of that team, that locker room, that side of the ball, make sure that they establish their identity and go out and you just got to break the seal, on some of these close games. And then you kind of have to reinforce each and every year, like what it takes to win some of those tight games. And you look across the division and the way that the Bucs have won a lot of these games. Look, the Bucs could very easily be 2-4, right? But they found ways to win a lot of these close ones.
Now, Drew, when do you get to the point, and you probably witnessed teams, okay, are we truly rebuilding, or where are we at as an organization? Playing younger players. Look at the trade deadlines looming, November the 4th. And sometimes you have to depart with popular players, or one or two of them, to improve the future, to gain assets. Now you still got to pick the right players in the future, depending on the assets that you have. But that's a tough call. Remember last year, going into training camp, we probably had the best room of DBs. We had Lattimore, Paulson, and Debo. Alontae Taylor was the young guy. We're definitely top 5. But then we moved on from Lattimore. So when does it come? Because it's always, this organization, it's always better to get rid of a player a year too soon than a year too late because of the value to get something for him. So what's your take on that? Are we there yet? You might say, well, we're not there yet, Bobby. We still have a chance. To go to the playoffs, I don't know about that, Drew. I'm looking, it doesn't, you're behind the 8 ball. But November 4th could be here before you know it. So what approach do you take with that? Because you've been an older player, and you know what comes about, and you're trying to also play not only for now, but also for the future. Yeah, look,
it's a tough subject because this is what I've always felt, man. I never discount leadership in the locker room, and also just the morale. Like there's guys that are just core pieces that I think you want to keep around as long as you possibly can, even if their roles, diminish as far as how much they're playing or productivity or what have you, just because they're just that important, a teammate and a leader. So I think you always have to weigh that, when you're thinking about those decisions. Look, I also recognize the fact that you truly build today's game through the draft. You maximize what you can get out of those players for the first 4 to 5 years, and then hopefully you keep more than half of them, and they become your core players for a really long time, and they play for you for 8 to 12 years. But look, you're not going to be able to keep them all, right? It's just the nature of the salary cap. But I think having that leadership in the locker room and amongst some of those position groups is really, really vital.
Now, Drew, you were a touchdown maker come red zone, so we need touchdowns, not settling for field goals. What do you think is the key that we need to do to be have better red zone execution? Just to, where we're getting touchdowns, not having to settle for field goals.
Yeah, look, that's a combination of everything gets compressed in the red zone, right? Tight windows, man. You got to be on point. No negative plays. You got to be able to run the ball effectively. I mean, like a 2 or 3 yard run in the red zone is a great play. But you also need targets. Like you need matchups. You know, I mean, I can remember, some of our best years, right? It was, man, Sproles was a matchup nightmare in the red zone. Jimmy Graham was a matchup nightmare in the red zone. Colston was a matchup nightmare in the red zone, right? Like just these big bodies, like guys that just had certain traits that, man, you just knew, man, there's places I can throw that ball where only he can get it. Look, there's some scheme as well, and attacking, the way that some of these defenses are going to try to play in the red zone. And then just your ability to run the ball, right? Like the 2 yards is good, and then find your matchups and make sure your scheme's on point.
Now, Drew, when I look at times, it seems like it's happening more against us than us actually doing it. I can remember whether you're throwing the receiver open or he's making that contested catch, whether it be Colston or Jimmy Graham. I can go a number of examples. But it seems like every game I'm talking about in the postgame, contested catches often end up being the story. And a lot of times the teams that make them wins the game. And how critical is that you can depend on receivers or whatever's needed to make that catch? Okay, I'm going to give you an opportunity, but it just seems like we don't come down enough times with that if it's a contested type play.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, and this isn't a knock on our receivers, but we've got a lot of fast guys. They're not the biggest guys. I think when you have variety amongst your receiving core, hey, you got guys that can run, you got guys that are great route runners, you got big bodies, so typically when you've got a mix, then that's where the matchups become interesting, because all of a sudden you get a big on little, and hey, we like that matchup, right? Or we get, one of our fast guys against one of their guys that doesn't transition very well, and hey, we caught him with a good matchup that favors us. Let's go attack that. So I think that's part of the magic of how you build your roster.
Now, Drew, we play in Chicago next, the Bears. And they're feeling good about themselves right now. And they have a coach that we're familiar with. And when you were in this situation, you're familiar with a coach, he might be familiar with you. And we saw Dennis Allen being a part of our defense here forever. How would you attack like the Bears on Sunday? Because it's like a chess match because, you might know them, but they know you. So how do you approach that?
Well, it's kind of like playing a divisional opponent, Yes, there is a high level of familiarity, but you just find a little nuances, And obviously the personnel is different, So we got to study their personnel and really understand who we're going up against. But yeah, I mean, I think from the coordinator perspective, we know Dennis's scheme, right? We know the stuff that
right.
There's kind of his comfort zone, right? We know his go-tos, He also knows that we know that. So
right.
I'm sure there's going to be some wrinkles, But at the same time, this is Kellen Moore's offense against his defense, right? And so those, I'm not sure how often those have gone up against each other.
Now, Drew, looking at the starting offensive line, it seems like going into the last game, we're going against the Patriots, that only played like 23 snaps together. It's like we always was snake bit, hurt, whatever. Now it looks like the offensive line is coming together, guys that we're familiar with. And you want to, I'm like saying, can we stay healthy for 1 month and play together? And that happens. So, well, that's a positive because I think you need that continuity. Just speak about the great O-lines you play with and how important that is. And not being one dimension, not only just run blocking, but the whole schemes and how you know how each other's thinking, whether it's pass protection, run blocking, but having that continuity in the O-line. Because we always, the fans, we tend to look at the skill people and we only talk about the linemen when they're getting their butt whooped, but when they're doing their job, that's always, you don't talk about them. But I think that's going to be important, the continuity of the O-line to be able to play for an extended period.
Look, it's crucial. It's crucial. Because that is the position in football that really requires that. Just because of the amount of communication that happens and the adjustments that happen, and not only that, just how you work together in pass protection. I mean, if you just sat there and watched the front, five, against, the D-line. They're running all kinds of games, and they're having to pass off twists and stunts, and, that's just constant communication and takes a ton of time on task. So, I think back to Streif and Jari, and the way that they would communicate and how they were handling all of that stuff, right?
Right.
You think about guys that, that would even play swing tackle, swing guard, like the Andrus Peets, that all of a sudden he starts off at left guard and then the left tackle goes down. He's got to jump out to left tackle. But, hey, you also kind of understand where you need to kind of, be aware of just based on matchups and different things. So, look, it's a crucial part of the game, though.
Drew, thanks so much for joining us. Always great to have you on here with us on the Big 870 WWL, now quarterback to quarterback segment.
All right, Drew. At least when they go to Chicago, it should be nice fall day. Won't be dealing with
right?
inclement weather. So
yeah, no snow or sleet or anything like that.
Yeah,
let's hope so.
All right.
Thank you, Drew.
They're building a dome stadium up there. You know that?
Well, yeah, because they won a Super Bowl in Arlington Heights. Yeah, you got to.
Yeah.
You have to have that $1 billion stadium. You want those Super Bowls.
That's exactly right.
He says that group in total, the Saints, and I mentioned that if you just sat there and watched the front five against the D-line, they're running all kind of games. They're having to pass off twists and stunts, and that's just consistent communication. That takes a ton of time on task, Drew said. The Saints hope that the time on task helps them this week against the Bears defense that ranked 29th. With pressure generated on 27.7% of the opponent dropbacks. The Saints are 1-5, Bears 3-2 face off there. That's a combination of everything gets compressed in the red zone, right? He also said that tight windows, if you got to be on, he says that in the red zone, right, tight windows, and you got to be on point, no negative plays. A 2 or 3 yard run in the red zone is a great play, but you also need targets, like you need matchups. I can remember some of our best years, right? It was, Sproles with a matchup nightmare in the red zone. Jimmy was a nightmare in the red zone. Colston was a matchup nightmare in the red zone. Like those big body guys that just had certain traits, you just knew, there's a place I can throw the ball where he can get it. There's some scheme as well in attacking that way. That some of these defenses are going to try to play in the red zone, and then just your ability to run the ball. Like 2 yards is good, then find your matchups and make sure your scheme is on point. They asked, how do you attack Dennis Allen's defense? Drew says it's kind of like playing a divisional opponent. Yes, there is a high level of familiarity, but you're just finding little nuances. And obviously the personnel is different. So we've got to study their personnel and really understand who we're going up against. But I think just from the coordinator perspective, we know Dennis' scheme, right? We know the stuff that is kind of his comfort zone, right? We know his go-tos. He also knows that what we up to. So there's going to be wrinkles. That same time, that's Kellen Moore's offense against his defense, right? And so I'm not sure how often those have gone up against each other, right? So the Saints got to execute. He mentioned Jimmy Graham and several other players, right, in this thing. It's Jimmy Graham, Marcus Colston, Darren Sproles. Those guys were dogs. No, and I'm not disparaging our current staff, but you don't have a Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham was a former basketball player who had a will to win. Look at what he's doing now. The guy was out, not too long ago, boating through near the Arctic. Who does that? The guy learned how to become a pilot. That guy has a ridiculous amount of ambition to accomplish things. Right? That Jimmy Graham is the best tight end the Saints ever had. This guy we got here is just taking money. I doubt he has a will to win. His temperament is way too soft in terms of that. He got up to a point because the question was asked, how good could this guy be? You're paying him $10 million. You give him a 3-year deal that $10 million a year was $31 million. This guy, he dropped touchdown passes. He misses blocks. He don't block that well. He has still dealing with concentration drops. Hell, he's still false starting in his own building. I don't see anything changed about his game. And if he was better at his job, the Saints would have at least have one more win than they have now. I mean, so no. So what does he do? I mean, I don't see much improvement from Juwan Johnson. I'm sorry, I don't. Just keeping it real. I don't see he disappears. He shrinks in the red zone. Like I said, his blocking is not all. His blocking, he sucks blocking. He doesn't finish anybody off. It's just too soft. All that's just too soft. The guy just plays way too soft. The Saints have to find a dog at the tight end position. You know, somebody that's going to do the job. Somebody that has some wiggle to his game. You know, this guy is just. I'm sorry. I just don't see greatness in him. I see he got to a point where he got paid, but he done leveled out. I think he done leveled out. I don't think you'll see Juwan Johnson any better than what you get right now. Because usually he has several opportunities to make plays, and he collecting $10 million a year. I mean, there were times in the moment when they paying you $10 million a year, you're getting paid that kind of money because you're supposed to make extremely difficult plays because they're paying you that kind of money at the tight end position. And the man is just going to be, and the guy's going to be not dropping passes, letting guys punch the ball out with one hand. You got two arms on the ball. Well, you know, Jimmy, let me ask you this. Does Jimmy Graham make those catches that he dropped? Does Jimmy Graham make that catch? You damn right Jimmy Graham make that catch in that first game. The Jimmy Graham wasn't the greatest blocker in the world either, but he still did a decent, better job than what I see this other man doing. But I'm watching the game. I'm like, this guy's not. I think he done leveled out. What you see from 83 right now is the best you're gonna get. There is no next level. Because I was asking, do this guy got a next level? I mean, he obtained the bag, but he has a very important position, like many others. But he's the security blanket for a young quarterback. You know, the guy's a security blanket. We're not seeing $10 million worth of good game there. It's just not enough. You make a few catches here or there. The blocking is off. It's just not working, man. I don't see the attack dog mentality in these guys. It's not like I said, Sproles and all these guys, Drew. These guys were dogs. They had a competitive monster in them that wanted to win, that wanted to go out and take the game away. The Saints are milquetoast. A lot of these guys are milquetoast. And don't get mad at me, Saints, for telling you that, because I ain't talking to y'all, man. I'm talking to the players. Don't get mad because I'm just basically throwing back at you what I'm seeing on the field. That's why you're 1-5. Ain't no tough ass team gonna be 1-5, man. They're gonna fight like a dog to get the win. They ain't gonna lay down and talk about moral victories. Who does that? You don't hear champions sitting down and talk about moral victories. We got a moral victory. We played together, and we're going to be all right. We just have to hang in there. We got the moral victory. We're not going to panic. We're going to be, now shut up. We ain't no wins. You ain't getting no points for no moral victories. You're getting a paycheck. Now, we'll give you points for moral victory. You get your goddamn paycheck back. How about that? We'll give you points then. Oh, no. No, you ain't going to do that shit. So this is Drew says, how do you attack a Dennis Allen defense? He said, we read this one, and he says he finished by saying, I'm not sure how often those games, and the reality is the Possum. We know what the Possum got doing. We know the Possum likes the blitz. His team's not really very good at stopping the run. They're 31st. The secondary, I believe, is like is better than the run stuffers, but they do a good job of taking the ball away from you. 8 turnovers, tied for first in the NFL. As long as you understand that and you don't give them the takeaway, you should be able to kind of do what you want to this defense. But the thing is, like I said, Drew Brees talked about, a chess match here. He mentioned the schemes and knowing what they're going to do. And he mentioned it in the prior the prior thing. He talked about the combination in looks and schemes and red zones. And a lot of times, you ever heard the term scheme your people open? Y'all put one in the chat if y'all ever heard that. You just throw that in the chat. Anybody ever heard the term? Put one in the chat. One that up. That you ever heard the scheme your players open? I mean, where is that at? Like I said, I get pissed. I can't even watch a lot of the Saints tape because I watched the film. I watched the footage of the Saints, they tape, and I'm like, man, why are we even doing that? Why are we not taking advantage of the fact that they overloaded this side when we were over, audible to this side? Just smart stuff, just being a smart team and just having a chess match game against the team. Because a lot of times those plays don't work is because you're running into the strength of the defense. You're not supposed to do that. I know that's obvious sounding, but I guess I got to say it out loud to the dumb team that's doing it. You're not supposed to run into the strength of their defense. You're supposed to expose the weaknesses of that's what scheming is all about. What you think scouting reports is for? We scout the teams to find the weak players we can extort, that we can, when I scored exposed, how about that? That we can take advantage of. How about that? That's what the individual scouting reports is about. Which one of these players on here is the weak link that we need to go after? You know what they do for the Chicago Bears? They look at Penn and say, this guy right here, look at the tape. This guy here, number 70, man, that guy right there, look at his stance. He come out the stance. Look how where his arms is, where his knees is. Look where his feet is. When he comes out the stance, he's too damn high in this stance, and guys just walk him back. There was a play I showed y'all on Patreon this past week where literally they pushed that guy over like a top heavy dresser. You ever had one of them old school top heavy dressers? They come up a little bit like that. And you see what I'm saying? You got to make sure you don't bump against it too much because it might come toward your ass. One of them type of things. Looked like the dude literally went right up under him and pushed him over, and he fell on the top of his back, not on the back or the middle of his back. He fell. He pushed him over like a top heavy dresser. He fell on the top of his back. How'd that work? Because he up too high. And this is what the guy consistently do. That's why I was like, man, it's enough of that. When this season's over with, we're going to let him go ahead on, have a nice life, man. We're going to find somebody else and start again. You just not getting it. You are up too high, and the Saints gave him every opportunity. Right tackle, left guard. And the guy's technique is just not hitting. And they can attack him. Another guy they can attack is number 51. They know 51 is confused. He also has bad and inconsistent technique. Where guys can swim him. I mean, simple moves. I've seen people swim that guy so bad that they swim 51 so bad. It was like going through the turnstile of an old school grocery store. You go right through that little thing there, and you swim through it, and the thing just flip over, and it stays right there. You just walk into the store. That's what he is. Panna. It's just them guards, man. If you ain't got a top heavy dresser on the left side and a turnstile on the right side, I don't know what you got. It's just them guys, and the defense it ain't no use sitting up here pretending that there's something that they aren't. I'm not in delusion or denial about the abilities of these guards that we have currently starting. The technique is bad on both of them. They're both inconsistent. You can weigh them on a scale and tell me which one stank the most. But to me, defenses are going to go at these guys. And also, you look at when these defensive line will practice principles like using stunts, because that involves testing the communication of your offensive line. They're gonna do that stunt action. They're also gonna shift right around the snap to create confusion to figure out who I got to block. And the Saints struggle with these communication issues. We're in week number 7. Can he finally put it together? Everybody got to know who they're supposed to be blocking, fam. We can't be oblivious about the non-ability of some of these players. You know, they're like the guard thing. And McCoy hasn't looked, 78 hadn't looked that good either. I seen McCoy got beat. I seen McCoy missed the block. I'm like, boy, what's wrong with McCoy? Is he hurt again? I was like, I got to think, is he hurt? Is he hurt? What's wrong with him? Why you looked at that tape there, man? That wasn't a good looking tape. But I'm just saying, defensively speaking, we got to understand what's going on. And Spencer Rattler ain't in denial. That's why he be scrambling his ass around in there. He'll say, yeah, we trusting these guys because he's supposed to, but at the end of the day, look at his body language. He's scrambling his ass out around, trying to get out of Dodge and every damn thing. So like I said, man, ain't no more being in denial about a 1-5 ass team, man. Especially where the funk and the stink lie on the team. It is definitely in the center of the Saints offense and defensive lines. This can't go anymore. Shepard needs to be benched, and we need to see about better options for either one of these guys, man. I don't want either one of them on a team next year. Penning's got a 1-year deal. After this, he's done. Cesar Ruiz still have multiple years remaining on his contract. We need to be saying about trading him. We need to get that guy out of here, man. That guy is awful, man. All right, thoughts on the trade deadline. Never discount leadership in the locker room, you know, and also just the morale. What morale, Drew? Discount the lead. The leadership is discount. What's the brand? Walmart, great value, huh? When you go to the store, what's the cheapest brand of item you can buy at the grocery store? When you go to Walmart, it's great value. You see what I'm saying? Never discount leadership. No, we never discount leadership, Drew, but you have discount leadership. You got great value in there. None of them guys is stepping up and playing to the length of their contract that they paying these guys. They're not performing like that. They're not game changing anything. And truth be told, a lot of the leaders, the young guys, are outplaying these old dudes that's supposed to be guiding them. They're totally ineffective. Like we talked about McCoy looking all rusty and dusty recently, and DeMario missing tackles, Pete Werner missing tackles, Olavi dropping the football, Juwan Johnson dropping the football, missing blocks. Some of these other veterans, Cesar and Penning, who's been in here for 4 years or whatever it is. These guys are veterans, not stepping up and doing what they're supposed to do and letting the team down. Not these young guys. So, yeah, we got discount leadership. Don't discount the leadership, Q. Yeah, we got discount leadership, great value ass leadership. At paying them at high dollar prices for great value leadership. But they'll give you a pep talk. They'll talk to you about holding firm. Nah, man, show me something, bro. Show the mighty Who Dat Nation and the great Saint think tank that you work that you respect them for supporting you. Show them that you are not going to go out there and embarrass them against the Chicago Bears. Show them that you want to go out there and you serious about winning and that you're just not cashing checks and stealing money. That's what you need to be focusing on. You can't whip these guys up. You got to motivate them and pay them at the same time. Listen, I'm going to give you all these millions, but listen, we got to have a pep talk here. Ain't millions enough for you to get up off your ass and catch a ball and block? Am I saying anything wrong? I mean, how many of you guys out there will go above and beyond? If you're playing football, they're paying you millions of dollars. You're taking care of your family. You ain't going to step up and step out? You ain't going to go there early and leave late? Huh? I mean, it's a mindset. It's a mindset you have to have, and a lot of these guys simply don't have it. Anyway, like those guys that are just core pieces that I think you want to keep around as long as you possibly can. No, we don't. Even if their roles diminish as far as how much they're playing or productivity or what have you, just because they're just that important a teammate and a leader. So I think you always have to weigh that when you're thinking about those decisions. No, you don't, Drew, because number one, the guys that you're talking about as leadership, these guys are not leading anybody nowhere unless it's to the edge of a volcano in which they're going into it. Just believe and just jump in the volcano. Follow me to greatness. You know, jump in the damn volcano with them, DeMario Davis and all these cats. If they're not performing in a way that's leading to success, there's no need for these guys to be here. I'm just being real. What's the purpose? What leadership are they providing if the team is 1-5? Hold your head. I can play a song by Tupac, keep your head up in the damn locker room, and that takes care of their damn motivation. They're not there to be just talking. They're getting paid because they're supposed to lead by example. and they're not leading by example, dropping touchdown passes, having concentration drops, blowing blocks, not dominating, missing tackles and taking poorish angles and just playing dumb and stupid. That's not any leadership. I want that to poison Stutzman or Jonas Sanker or any of our guys. I like these young guys. I think they can have a future. We don't need old leadership that can't keep it on the level that we need it to be, which is success. Having old leadership here and they're not successful is a waste of time. It's a waste. They're only justified by success. If you're not having them, they got to go. Just keeping it real. This is what it is. They know that too. He said, and this is what Drew says. Look, I also recognize the fact that you truly build today's game through the draft. You know, you maximize what you can get out of those players for the first 4 to 5 years, and then hopefully you can keep more than half of them and they become your core players for a really long time and play for you. 8 to 12 years. But look, you're not going to be able to keep them all. All that's just the nature of the salary cap. But look, I think having that leadership in the locker room and amongst some of the position group is really, really vital. Only leadership, because there's bad leadership. We don't often delineate between the two, but bad leadership there is such a thing as bad leadership. When people automatically talk about leadership, there is good and bad leadership. Saints currently are under bad leadership. Start with Mickey Loomis down to not so much with Kellen, he just got here. But the veterans on our team are not showing. They're not showing up, and a great deal of what's going on while the team is 1-5 is due to these veterans not handling business. This is the point. A lot of people are thinking it's the young people. It's not the young people. It's the veterans. The veterans aren't doing what they're supposed to do. They're not leading correctly, and that's the honest to God, honest truth. These guys are missing too many tackles, taking poorish angles. They're not dominating at the line of scrimmage. Chase Young got all that money. He missed how many games? 5 games? The guy signed $51 million contract, whatever it is, missed 5 games, came back and didn't do much or nothing. Had a few pressures, dumb pressures that forced the quarterback out. There was no containment. He was able to pick up yardage. So in the end, it's a lot of stuff going wrong right here. Like I said, when your team is 1-5, not one person on the team is not going to be looked at and said listen, you got to do better. When you're 1-5, everybody has a part in it. Everybody has a part in it. It's just ridiculous.